Welcome back to Bite-Sized Theology. Today we're asking a really important question. What does Christian living actually look like? If salvation is about what God has done for us, then Christian living is about how we now live because of that grace. Now, right away, we need to clear something up. Christian living is not how we earn God's love or his favor. Christian living is not about earning salvation. It's not about proving ourselves to God. It's not even about trying to be good enough. Ephesians 2:8-9 tells us we are saved by grace, not by works. But the very next verse, Ephesians 2:10, says this: For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Good works do not save us. They flow from salvation. I've heard it said this way, that Christian living isn't the root of our faith, it's the fruit of our faith. The second thing to know is that Christian living is living for Christ, not for ourselves. Paul says something striking in Galatians 2:20. He says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. So Christian living is a shift in direction. Instead of asking, what do I want? What serves me? What makes my life easier? We begin asking, what honors Christ? What reflects his love? How does my life point to him? 2 Corinthians 5:14-15 puts it this way: For Christ's love compels us because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died. And he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised again. So this isn't about losing ourselves. It's about discovering who we were created and meant to be. So what is at the heart of this idea of Christian living? Well, actually, love is. You know, when Jesus was asked what mattered most, he didn't give a long list. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second was, love your neighbor as yourself. Christian living is not primarily rule keeping. It is this idea of love-shaped obedience. Jesus says in John 14:15, if you love me, you will keep my commands. Notice the order there. Love first, and then obedience flows from love. We don't obey to get God to love us. We obey because we are already loved. You know, another thing to know is that Christian living is this idea of ongoing transformation. Romans 12:1-2 describes Christian living as a daily offering. It says, therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Christian living is not this instant perfection. It's this ongoing transformation. So the Spirit is reshaping our desires, our habits, and our characters. We see in Romans 8:12-13 that there's this idea that we are powered by the Spirit, not self-powered. We're learning to say no to what leads to death and to say yes to what leads to life. The last thing you should know is that Christian living is this idea of outward-facing living. Christian living doesn't stop with this idea of just personal growth. It moves outward. It moves toward good works, toward things like compassion and justice and witness. Paul will ask in Romans 10:14-15, how then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. Living for Christ includes inviting others to know and follow him, not through pressure, but through presence, through love, and through faithfulness. So what happens is our lives become a kind of signposts that are pointing towards Jesus and his kingdom. So what is Christian living? Well, Christian living is not about earning God's favor. It's about responding to God's grace. It's living for Christ instead of ourselves. It's loving God and loving others. It's being slowly transformed by the Spirit, and it's allowing our lives to point others toward Jesus. Or to put it simply, Christian living is what grace looks like when it takes shape in your everyday life. So here's a reflection for this week. As we consider all this, maybe ask yourself, where might God be inviting me to live with Christ and for Christ instead of just living for myself? Not out of guilt, not out of pressure, but out of love. Because the Christian life isn't about trying harder. It's about living differently when Christ's life is alive in you. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep thinking deeply, living fully, and loving God with all your heart and all your mind. We'll see you next time on Bite Size Theology.